Hello, we're here at BT Murrayfield for the official Scottish Rugby podcast. Everyone is back, Al, Mossy, Lindsay and myself. In the studio with us this week we have Gemma Fay, head of Women and Girls Rugby, plus Scotland 7's Captain Helen Nelson phones in from France. Welcome back everyone, it's great to have a full table again. Lindsay and I managed it last week, numbers were really strong to be honest.
That's what I heard, yeah.
Really good podcast, but good to have Mossy and Al.
Mossy, where we go?
Come on, let's get the golf clubs out.
Just leave.
No.
Al, you're looking very refreshed though from your break, where were you?
I was in Bayonne visiting Johnny Beattie and his family. With my family, I should add. I didn't leave them behind.
Nice break? It
was very nice. Good to catch up with them as well.
You're looking quite bronzed as well.
No, the weather was okay. We spent a lot of time on the beach, but it was beach with the anoraks on most of the time. Doesn't stop the kids going swimming in the sea, which was nice. So yeah, all in all, a very nice break. Thank you very much.
How's Johnny? Doing he alright?
Johnny's doing very well. He wasn't well at the weekend, so he was meant to be playing on Friday night and ended up not playing. He's got another year to go out there. But yeah, rugby wise he's doing well, and family wise he's doing great as well.
Brilliant. And Mossy, you were away, but it wasn't a holiday for you. You were away with work, weren't you?
Yeah, I was in Bosnia. A week past Saturday, with a few others from Scottish Rugby, and also remembering Srebrenica Scotland charity. So we were in Sarajevo doing some charity work and some rugby coaching as well at a rugby club called Zenica, a city called Zenica, but an hour outside Sarajevo, which was brilliant. Last Sunday morning, about 70 kids from 6 up to 14, and you can understand why the national teams in that part of the world are pretty physical and pretty tough. Even the wee ones were pretty brave and pretty hard in around the contact. So really good. And then a lot of work around the Srebrenica massacre and charity stuff aligned to that. So busy week. I was also one of my friends works in a school, an international school in Switzerland. So the way back, I stopped there, 2 days coaching. So about 8 rugby sessions over 2 days. One or two of the players involved in our under 18s Excels programme. So it was good to catch up with them as well. So busy week before getting back on Friday afternoon to be here for the Friday night game between Edinburgh and Ulster.
Didn't see the game myself, the game here at BT Murrayfield. You're looking at it on paper, disappointing result for Edinburgh. They must be really kicking themselves that they couldn't get a home victory against Ulster.
Disappointing all round, really. Disappointing performance, really. Even if you take the result away from it, it's Edinburgh have done so well to stay in the fight, and they still are in the fight, just for a playoff spot. Thinking, bonus point victory at home against Leinster, that comeback against Scarlets away from home, which was a different side to Edinburgh. Really, the games we've won this year have mainly been getting ahead, staying ahead, doing the right things. But 12-0 down against Scarlets away from home, they had to. They didn't really change their game, but they had to dig out a result coming from behind, which was good. But yeah, Friday's really frustrating from an Edinburgh perspective. The players, the coaches will be disappointed. I don't know if you saw it, Al.
I did, Lindsay, I watched over in France. It was quite unlike Edinburgh. There was a lot of mistakes. It took them kind of 40-50 minutes to settle into the game, and then they fired a few shots, but there was a lot of basic errors which we've not seen for Edinburgh for a long time. That was a massive game. They talked about the fact that every game was a cup final. I wonder whether the enormity of the games that have gone before had just all kind of built up to produce that performance, which wasn't nearly their best. Now they go into a game in 2 weeks' time now, needing a favour from Zebra over in Italy.
Yeah, the Ulster's defence was excellent. It really was. The pop battered feet, they were physical. Dan McFarlane, head coach, now obviously has been involved with Glasgow in the past and recently with Scotland, so he will have known a lot of the individuals, but it was just physically Ulster came out on top. It was almost like going back to maybe a long time ago where Edinburgh were bullied a little bit. We've not seen that.
They kind of looked off the pace a little bit and not like their usual selves have been in the last few months. Henderson typified that. He just
and Coetzee as well, the number 7s.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time he carried the ball, Coetzee carried the ball, he was terrific. But Henderson, every breakdown he's a nuisance. The physicality he brings to that Ulster pack when he's not playing, and you take Rory Best out of that team, and you think, maybe they'll be a wee bit light as far as the physicality. Put Henderson not in, and I think he's terrific now. He is the key, I believe, to them playing well at the moment. And some great finishes from the wingers. Both Ulster wingers looked vulnerable under a high ball, vulnerable in defence at times, but going forward were phenomenal.
Yeah, either side of half time, wasn't it? Balakoon's try was a brilliant finish in about 5 metres, and then Rob Little scored that one where he carried 3 defenders over the line. So they've got that width. You can see the blueprint that Dan McFarlane's trying to put on it. It's quite similar to what he would have been exposed to his time with Glasgow and Scotland, that fast open game, but the defence won them the game, and their physicality kind of laid the platform to win them the game. But Edinburgh just still in it. Obviously we'll talk about the derby coming up, although the derby's coming up really across all the different fixtures in 2 weeks time, or just over a week and a half's time, so they need to win that. Edinburgh, Glasgow will need to win it to cement a home semi-final place, and there's games elsewhere that have to go Edinburgh's way, so they'll be disappointed to be going into the final week looking for other teams to help them get over the line.
When it comes to derbies, anything can happen, really. It doesn't matter if it's away from home.
Yeah, I mean, in any sport, isn't it? Like, most derbies don't go true to form, and Benetton have been by far the better side all year over Zebra. They've had some fantastic results of late. That last minute draw against Leinster 2 weeks ago, and then pushing Munster really close. And recently, they're obviously sitting third in Conference B, whereas Zebra are seventh in Conference A, bottom of Conference A. And if you put both conferences together, the bottom team would be Zebra, 19 points. So we'd be 14 from 14. So you would think that, although it's away from home for Treviso, they would pick up that victory. But we've all played in derbies, we know what it means. The passion, I suppose the niggle that will be involved in it. Who knows? But from Edinburgh's point of view, they have to target their own performance, as will Glasgow, as they kind of look for that home semi-final. Yeah,
the derby match, the first 40, 50, 60 minutes won't be affected by who is where in the league. You talk about Edinburgh, Glasgow. Now, Edinburgh will know when they play Glasgow what they need to do, or if they have any opportunity to get through. But I don't think that takes away from the game at all, as far as the players are concerned. For that first 40, 50, 60 minutes, it's the last 20 minutes where you sometimes see the team who have got a wee bit more desperation push forward, and the same will be true over in Italy as well.
Do you think is it a bit strange, the fact that all the games aren't happening at the same time?
It's strange. It's obviously a league decision. You could argue that you get an advantage by knowing what's gone before you. But then I suppose from a Premier Sports point of view, they're looking to show every single game live, so they therefore couldn't have done that with only the 3 channels. So that's probably why it's happening.
I think with the derbies in Wales as well, they're all at the Principality Stadium, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
So they carry 2 games on the same field, and it's a bit kind of strange that they aren't all together, but I don't think it has a huge effect. You would rather be playing later rather than earlier, I think, so you do, if it does give you any advantage, but I don't think it'll actually have an effect on how the teams prepare. Or you often say that, but more often than not you're warming up when the other game's on, same as like playing in the Six Nations. You got to watch the game. No, I've got something to concentrate on. I'm warming up and getting ready for our game, so it shouldn't really affect it, I don't think. And
just on the Edinburgh game, Lindsay and I talked about it last week. Ross Ford, it was potentially his last game here at BT Murrayfield. You guys know Fordy well. What type of player is Fordy? What's it been like to play with him? It was quite a mellow kind of celebration. I think that was maybe Fordy's decision, but just your guys' take on Fordy in his career so far.
Probably sums him up. He works incredibly hard. He always has. I remember Mossy will be the same, and he first came into the Scotland camp at 17 years old, already about the same size as he is now. He was a back row, converted 6 into hooker. And some of these guys that came through at that time, Tom Phillips would argue it stands out physically, but they were incredible at 17, 18 years old. Now, Fordy is just a guy, I mean, his consistency of performance has been incredible. To go 110 caps for Scotland, just under 200 at the moment for Edinburgh, and hopefully we'll make that 200 in the Glasgow game. That says an awful lot about the way he looks after himself as well. He works so hard at the small details off the park. He loves the gym, and he'll work in the gym like you wouldn't believe, and he's always been incredibly strong in the gym. I loved playing with him and playing against him. We've had our run-ins on the park at times, but yeah, he's been a terrific servant for Edinburgh and for Scottish Rugby.
I think the biggest thing about Fordy is that as Al says, his consistency, but to reach 110 caps is something pretty special, but to do it in the front row is even more special. Like the level of attrition and his Lions cap as well. He's but he doesn't shout and scream or beat his chest. He just gets on with stuff. Lovely bloke. I'm not sure what his plans are next. But with that application that he showed in his rugby career, he'll do just fine. But he's definitely one of those guys that you'll always get to smile when you see him. Say hello to him. He's a great bloke, fierce competitor. To be in the front row for that long and still be as effective as he is now. I mean, I still believe he could play on if he wants to.
How old is he? He's about
33, 34. Is it 33?
Could do John Smith and move to tight-head.
I can never know.
Certainly got the physique.
But he's and I felt it was kind of one of those a little bit kind of awkward moments on Friday night at the end of the game, because he's achieved so much and he's done so well, but you could see he was just embarrassed that and he doesn't like being in the limelight anyway, but because the performance wasn't that great, and he just almost like probably the other Edinburgh players were just thinking, let's get our head down, let's focus on the next game, and get back at the changing rooms and reset, because it was, the performance was poor, and it took away a little bit from what should have been a big celebration for him. But he'll keep going.
If I was Edinburgh, I'd get him back. Give him 6 months, let him get away, and then get him back in, and whether it's a match ball presentation or something along those lines. And it won't be for 4D, but it might be for everybody who's come and watched him for the last 12 years or so as well. And to get his family out there, so alright with him on the pitch on Friday night. But yeah, I'd get him back in and make more of a big deal of it then. Although, as we've alluded to, he'll hate that.
Yeah, I think it was nice that some of his fellow teammates had taken to social media after the game, just to kind of touch on how good a guy he was, and celebrate the fact that possibly could have been his last home game at BT Murrayfield. So it was quite nice. You
won't find anybody or anything I know of with a bad word to say about him. He's an absolute gentleman, and the relationship he had with Andy Robinson was brilliant. He's laughing at Robbo used to constantly try and press forward these buttons
to make him angry,
to try and get him to be angry, but it's just not in him. He was just, he was what he was. He'd perform at the level he could perform at, but he used to call him all sorts of different names to try and get him to just bring out this border mongrel that was maybe buried deep inside him. But he didn't find the buttons, and he didn't need to find the buttons, because he still performed brilliantly throughout.
He's a great guy, and we wish for all the best, and whatever he decides to do next, on the field and off the field potentially. Let's look at Glasgow now. A great result away from home against Leinster, the first time they've beaten them in Leinster since 2011, I believe.
What a game of rugby!
Great result, wasn't it?
A brilliant game of rugby as well. Absolutely a great result. But the wind, you were worried, is the wind going to spoil this game? But not at all. I thought it was a fantastic game of rugby. Both teams clearly going for it. Leo Cullen making the changes at half time to bring on and perceived big guns and get those guys back involved. But yeah, a very enjoyable game of rugby to watch. A big result for Glasgow. Some outstanding individual performances. Everybody's putting it around social media. Johnny Gray, 43 tackles in that game of rugby.
None missed.
None missed. Which, that's
a season total.
That is a season total, not far off.
What was your biggest tally you got?
I think it was 4. No, I don't.
Are you asking him how many missed or how many made in one game?
4. His stats are incredible. Now he's topping the pile. There are plenty of people who have got making 27, 28, 30 tackles in a game, which is, incredible. I saw him today actually, and physically he's all right. Like you would expect to be. Absolutely crumbled after that, but he's already in doing his gym session, getting ready for a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, I thought that the last couple of weeks, stay on Johnny, but the last couple of weeks, we've seen Johnny Gray back to his best. I thought he's put in 2 terrific performances, and for Glasgow to do anything, they're going to need somebody like Johnny to keep performing at that level.
I think the Glasgow result at the weekend was more than a great win. I think it was a statement win.
Yeah.
The chances are the two teams could or may even meet, in the knockout phase and the final potentially. And I think the team that Leinster picked, would be in the back of their mind. They were thinking that we're at home, a European semi-final next week. Maybe they would look to try and rest. They didn't. They went pretty strong, and any kind of serious front line that wasn't there was on the bench, and they came on quickly. Yeah. I think Leo Cullen and Stuart Lancaster and the coaches were thinking, we need to make a statement in case we face Glasgow again. And I think the fact that Glasgow go score 5 tries away from home, soak up really of what Leinster could throw at them, was a really big statement.
Just on that point, you mentioned potentially could be another game with Leinster. Just remind yourselves here, it's the top 3 finishing the top 3 conferences, the top first place position goes into
automatically into the semi-final.
So as it stands now, Glasgow Warriors would then play the 3rd place in Conference B, so it would be Treviso as it stands.
No, they would go. Glasgow Warriors, as it stands at the moment, Glasgow and Leinster would both go to the semi-final.
Of course, yeah.
So, and then it's cross-conference 2nd versus 3rd. So as it stands, Munster would then play at home to Benetton.
They play 3rd, and then
and then cross-conference it would be Ulster at home to Connacht.
Got you.
As it stands, and then the winners will play Glasgow and Leinster in the semi-final.
Yeah, so when you look at the Glasgow currently on 76, Munster on 73. I mean, that Conference A in particular anything can really happen.
Well, that's why this is still a massive game for Glasgow as well. You want to try and guarantee that home semi-final place. It gives you a down week, a bye week when the semi-final qualifier, I think as they're calling it, or the quarter-final for use, the semi-final qualifier is played. So it means when you do play a semi-final, you're going to play someone who's played more recently, which sometimes I think maybe one of the things Glasgow struggled with last year when they came against the Scarlets. They'd been a European run and played that quarter-final, if you want to call it that, and Glasgow hadn't played for near a month, I think. But so that's the kind of one downside of finishing top. But I suppose the upside is that if you didn't, your semi-final would be away in Leinster. But after last weekend's result, it's maybe not that daunting a place with both our sides beating them the last 3 weeks.
I'd like to take back my suggestion that Glasgow Warriors would play whoever finished 3rd. I would suggest that if you finish 3rd place, you'd get a bye to the semi-final. That's what I think should happen.
Jamie, I was agreeing with you. So.
You did agree with me on that. So ignore me. So that makes complete sense. Let's go back to the game with Glasgow. I saw a clip of it was Ali Price pick and go, and you saw Sam Johnson running behind. Was that a set piece? I don't know if you've seen the try, Mossy, but it looked like, is that something that they had planned, that he knew the pick and go, that he had to be right off his heels, right off the back of Ali's pick and go? Because the pace of Sam to run that lane and get in touch with them.
There will be times in the game where there's phases called and you know what's likely to happen. But that one to me is more just a reaction. I
thought it was a reaction.
It does look at multi-phase at that, and it's just, it shows you how aware you have to be of the game, even if you're not on the ball. Like if you don't, basically if somebody makes a line break, you then have to race the next defender if you're the support player to get there in order to be an option. And Sam's ability to get there and Ali's ability
though for his break to start with, and then that
and find that and
out the back
Sam.
pass as well that he gave to Sam.
It was the pace of Sam though.
Wasn't a bad fend either, to be fair.
No, but number 10.
I think he needed that.
That was when they went back and looked at Robert Harley's clear, because they thought Robert had gone for the deep clear. The refereeing decision was that I think Leinster Tied, I think it was involved in the ruck, but Robert had taken him a good metre past it. Now Robert being Robert probably hung on to him for about 3 seconds after that as well, but it was perfect with a knowledge of the game. But Ali's break from Sam's support line, a lot of the time you see Ali running that support line or George running that support line, and both of them have picked up a lot of tries because they're so quick. Mossy's talked about it on the podcast before, getting right in behind the player who's got the ball to give them the option to make their decision about what way they're going to go, and then offering themselves up. But there was great attacking play from both teams, and I completely agree with Chris about the fact that it was a bit of a statement. Now, ideally, I think from a Glasgow point of view, you want to avoid Leinster until you're playing them in the final. But now, if you have to go and do that, then you've shown a fairly big statement that is doable.
George Horn's try at the very end, great awareness. Offside, Al? No?
I think everybody in the stadium thought it was offside, and then when you watched it back on the telly, I was looking at replay thinking he must be offside, but you watch it, the pass wasn't great. The pass was in there for a long time, but he's timed that absolutely brilliantly, and it kind of nice full stop at the end of the game for Glasgow. That's
one where you're not running that gamble line if you're winning by 2 or 3 points, isn't it? And you're near your own line. It's one of the ones where we've won this game, the clock's in the red, I'm going to go for it. And just that he comes from so far away that the scrum half who gives a pass will never see him. They'll never assume that there's going to be somebody running in that passing lane. So he does He does it pretty well, George. You can sniff it a try, and it was a big moment in the match for him after being off for a while with injury and getting back to fitness, and Ali playing so well as well. It's good for Glasgow to have these guys that play at the top of their game.
Big couple of weeks then coming up for Glasgow and Edinburgh. So Edinburgh take on Glasgow at Scotstoun. When we'll review that game, I'm sure, the following Monday, but it's going to be a huge game at Scotstoun to see what happens in the Pro14. So that's how the table looks just now. It'll be interesting to see how it looks in 2 weeks' time. And remember, the Guinness Pro14 final will be taking place in Glasgow at Celtic Park this year on the 25th of May. For tickets and information, just head to scottishrugby.org. Let's look at the Scotland Sevens now. They were in Singapore over the weekend. It was 6 fixtures. It was 3 wins and 3 losses. But one of the wins we need to touch on, obviously, they beat Fiji. A great
last
result.
Play of the game,
last play of the game, but to beat Fiji is a great result for Scotland, but obviously disappointing around the other results.
How good was Max McFarland at the weekend as well? He got named in the dream team, and I think he got a total of 9 tries. That's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, he's actually a good season, Max, as well. He's just so quick, he's so dynamic, and he's scored a lot of tries over the course of the season, but great to see him in the dream team. But going back to your point, Al, about how important it was, or how good a victory it was against Fiji, it just shows you how much effort goes in that you then have to back that up and face another quality side in Canada just, a few hours later. And I sometimes feel that, the Scotland 7 lads have been really quite successful, but either on day 1 or day 2.
Yep.
And it's just such a demanding game in order to try and get that balance throughout the 2 days of the competition. But so it was 1-3 and lost 3 at the weekend. Losses against South Africa, Canada, and France, and then a massive win against Fiji, big win against Wales and Spain as well.
So the pleasing element of it is at the top of the game we could be beating teams like Fiji. Now in any game of rugby you're looking for consistency of performance, and to Moss's point, it's harder when the games are so close together, so physical. So Scotland just need to make sure they grab the good elements of the Fiji game and take them into the likes of the Canada game, which was a disappointment, or even the final against France.
To give some any context, it's like sometimes from my memory I only played in a couple of World Series competitions, but it's mentally but more so physically really hard to warm up 4 or 5 times in the same day. Like, you've played a game, think about if you play rugby, think about how you feel after the game, think about there'll be a cycle or a swim, whatever, immediately after to recover, but then you have to go back out and warm up again. It's bad enough doing 2 sessions a day when you're training, but then you're going to have to do a third warm up, and the games get harder and harder, and you're getting more tired. You have to warm up for everyone, you have to cool down for everyone. It's a massiff demand.
Is that not something we prepare the players for?
Definitely do, yeah, of course we do, yeah.
How do we get
it doesn't
better
make it any easier,
I know that, but how do we get better at putting performances in over 2 days?
Well, I mean,
or starting stronger.
The Sevens guys, their training will mirror that. So at certain points throughout the kind of season where they're not in competition, they'll have competition days, and they'll play 3 ties in a day. They'll get in a day. They'll get players into training as they play against. They'll kind of simulate that exact scenario. They'll also have maybe on day 2 the first warm up or the day will be maximal. So rather than just getting ready for the game,
do they still do that?
Still do the maximal. I think they do it now and again, definitely maximal, a complete and utter blowout.
So the theory is that
total exhaustion
makes it easier to get your second wind.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about it.
But bear in mind that's the day after having played 2 or 3 ties as well. So it's a real demand, and I suppose it just says that the guys who are at the top of the World Series, they can do it week in, week out. It's just the levels are phenomenal.
And I suppose one other thing you need to throw into the mix as well is depending on where they're playing, with climate and time of year, and
that's a second tournament in 2 weeks.
Yes,
at the other side of the world with travel. It's a big ask.
Delighted to have Gemma Fay, head of Women and Girls Rugby here. Gemma, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Just an opportunity for you to come in and talk about all the great stuff that's happening in and around the women's game at Scottish Rugby. But first, just want to go back to obviously your profession at being a footballer. Was it, how many caps for Scotland was it you got? 203?
Good Googling, yeah. 203.
203 caps.
Yeah.
Brilliant. You came from football. You think you were then at Sports Scotland, is that right, for a little period of time?
Kind of the together. So I wasn't professional until like the last 3 years of my career, when it started to kind of kick off in football. So in between times, I had a dual career. So I trained as a professional, and I worked for Sports Scotland for about 14 years. So a long time.
And you've been here, Scottish Rugby now since November 2017? Is that right?
No, not quite.
No?
No,
The Google's letting you down there.
January 2018.
Okay.
So
Give or
close.
take a few months. Very welcome today. Just talk us through your role and what kind of initiatives you're maybe working on at the moment.
My role is all encompassing. The best way to describe it is if it's got girls and women and rugby beside it, it's got something to do with me. Is the best way to describe it. But I think we're going to talk a lot about the performance side today. We've been doing a lot of things, but there's also a lot of great stuff happening over in the rugby development side of the games now, with Sheila Begbie being the director over there. So when I came in, it seems longer than January 2018, I gave myself a watching brief for the first kind of 3 months, just to understand how everything worked, both across performance within the domestic game and also just across organisation, understanding who the key players were, not on the pitch but off the pitch, and understanding, kind of just getting a sense check of where we were. Our kind of goal in terms of performance is to qualify for the 2021 World Cup, so that was clear in my mind that whatever we had to do next within the programme was to establish a team that was capable of doing that. And our kind of main headline target in terms of the rugby development is that we want to get more girls and women involved in the game of rugby, be that on the pitch or off the pitch. So everything we've done over there in conjunction with Sheila and our team was about creating more opportunities for girls and women.
And before you came here, did you follow rugby? Did you have much knowledge of rugby?
So I'm actually the black sheep in my family. I was the only one that really played football. So my dad used to play for Perthshire. And my brothers, I grew up in Perth, so I went to Perth Academy. So under Bruce Beckett, played rugby at Perth Academy, and then my other brother played for Perthshire as well. And I was there was just slightly more female football than there was rugby, so that's how I ended up playing football. So I knew a wee bit more than I let on, and then everybody assumed I knew. But not the in-depth knowledge of the structures and the way in which rugby operates within Scotland and across the world.
And you mentioned as well Sheila Begbie. You know, she was involved with Scottish football when you were playing there, and she's now obviously involved with rugby development. But how long have you known Sheila, and how is that relationship going over the years?
I've known Sheila she's known me since I was a spotty-faced teenager. But she was actually, thinking back now, she was actually an assistant national team coach when I started many years ago. And so I've kind of known her on and off for a long time. And I was kind of gutted when she left football, because she had been the kind of catalyst for so much change in Scottish women's football, and also within the SFA at the time. So I thought it was a huge loss. And I think she was gone. I retired at the end of 2017, and she hadn't been there for maybe, I don't know, 4 years. You
know, one thing in particular was the women's team going to Hong Kong. You know, what are your thoughts on that whole journey they've been on?
I was immensely proud for the players and the staff that were there, and it was a decision that we made prior, like in kind of October, November, that we were going to try and use that as an opportunity to develop our 15s team. It was a great opportunity. We hadn't, in all honesty, it was in our plan to maintain Grand Prix status this year past. We hadn't thought about World Series. That wasn't in our plans. It was like, okay, we need to stay in the top 8 if we do that, because we'd only just been promoted the previous year. And then we got to Marseille, and you know, we hit our target, which was to finish. I think we finished in the kind of top 10 or top 8, and we were a few players down. So it was a challenge, but the players did well. And then the players got to Kazan, and it was just like there was a freedom about them, and they medalled for the first time. And I think they were a bit shocked themselves that they'd done that, when they realised what they had done was not just medal, but they qualified for the World Series. It was all kind of sinking in. And the very first thing that I said to the players when I came in was that, and Lindsay will know this, and players will be sick of me saying this, but it's a journey. And the one thing that this Scotland team, and when I say team, I mean everything from players to support staff to the board to the council to everybody that's involved in Scottish rugby, we're going to have to do a lot of firsts if we're going to change the perception of what Scotland can do on the world stage when it comes to women's rugby. Because I believe that this country, this organisation and these players have got so much potential. And I believe that strongly, because I have been in that position. I was in that position with football when nobody talked about us. Nobody gave us a second thought. Yeah, you look at the Scottish Women's National Team and what they've done. They've qualified for their second successive international tournament. I think the Scottish Women's Rugby can do the same. They've absolutely got the ability to do that. And this was first for them. So they've won a medal on a Grand Prix series, and all of a sudden they're going to a World Series. So we sat down with Scott Forrest, the head coach, and said, look, we're going to give it a shot for Hong Kong, but we've got the same players that we play 15s with, so we have to manage those players really carefully. And we sat down with the players and we said, this is the process. We're going to be put some sevens stuff in place during the 15 season. Your focus when you're with Six Nations is your focus on Six Nations. Post that, we said to them, we're going for this. So we did the best that we had with the resources that we had, and do you know what? We very, very nearly pulled it off. But they will learn a lot. They will learn so much. If it had been the other way around, if we'd played Brazil in the semi-final and then we played Japan in the final, I think we would have won it.
Yeah.
But Brazil have got this big game experience. They've been in the Olympics, they've been in the World Series before.
Yeah, they were technically very good as well in the final. Brazil, their accuracy and the skill execution was excellent. Do you think, because it is a challenge, it always is a challenge, you've got to do a lot at first, but if you had to choose between 15s and 7s, now you want to develop and progress in both, is the 7s environment and vehicle, is that the best way, or in order to improve your 7s, or is the 15s the best way?
So for us,
is the 7s the best way to improve your 15s, or is your 15s the best way to improve your 7s? I think 7s as development is world class. I think it's the greatest thing for developing players.
Yeah, and from having been around a few 7 tournaments, been around 15s, they're two very different environments. And I think for us, I know we're going to talk about later about World Cup qualification. We have to look at this in two ways. We have to look at this in terms of as a union, 15s comes first. Okay, so for us and for World Rugby, 15s is a game they want to develop, and we want to develop that. And we have to be very careful, because rugby in a 15 sense offers something to everyone. 7s doesn't. So there's definitely different markets for that. And if I could sit here and say we want to develop both because we think both are brilliant, etc., etc., we don't have that depth of player pool at the moment. So the opportunity came about that we could go to Hong Kong, and we planned and said, if we could go to Hong Kong, we could get on the World Series. We expose these players to X amount of opportunities prior to the World Cup qualification for 15s. We transfer that back into 15s, then we've got a real opportunity of doing something. That's not happened. It doesn't mean we don't have a plan B and a plan C in place. But
the development will have happened. I mean, the learnings from that Hong Kong tournament for the girls that were involved would have been incredible. Defence is probably the one that stands out the most, because you cannot be more isolated than on a sevens park because the spaces around about you. But also the skill level and the fitness level. I was not impressed because I was shocked, but the transfer from what we'd seen during the Six Nations onto that sevens park, when you mentioned similar players, I thought was absolutely terrific. That can only enhance the 15s game.
It can. Do you know what it does? It gives them a flavour, doesn't it? It lets them see losing's not always a bad thing. To lose in a final when you know you could have won it, that's probably the best situation. It sounds weird, the best situation, because you know it's within your control. All of that was within our control, and they know that. The players know that. So, but what that means is that they can also change that, and they can also affect that. Because I remember when I played, it took me 3 shots to get to a major championship. Twice losing in playoffs, once losing with the last kick of the ball in the 125th minute of extra time, having saved a penalty. So you take that with you as a player, and it comes to the point you step on the park and you're like, it's just not happening again. We will not lose, we will win. And that culture and that mentality we are building within this team, absolutely building within this team. I
think also the skill element now is important, like the mental aspect, yeah, absolutely, the fact that they'll learn a lot from losing the games, but the skills in defence and in attack are transferable now. You talk about it in sevens now, or on the men's sevens games we've talked about, it's almost different athletes. But there was a period where it wasn't. I look back to guys like Ali Strokosh, who went away, and it was never the mental side of the game. With Ali, he was a young guy, he was playing at Edinburgh, went to the sevens, and defensively he went from being good to being phenomenal because of the pressure he was under on that sevens park.
Yeah, the sevens, it exposes your skills because there's obviously fewer players, the game's quicker, but you also have to deal with playing under pressure, playing under fatigue, playing in a big environment where there's a lot of people watching you, playing with a pressure on you to perform. What it doesn't give you is set piece.
Yeah.
So you think the 15s rugby, especially a Six Nations, revolves a lot around scrum, line out, kick off. There's like kick offs obviously, but and how you exit and whatever. So it doesn't give you that, but what it does give you is the ability to test your best athletes. And actually, sevens, it also gives you the ability to, I think, to introduce athletes from other sports, because it is less technical in some ways. So is that part of the thinking as well, in order to grow the game and maybe cross-reference other sports and sevens programs, and the hope that they can also join the 15 program?
I think there's a lot of things in there that you've mentioned, which decision making under pressure, you don't have time. You don't have time in sevens to set up, weigh up all your options, so you have to make quicker decisions and you have to make them under high pressure. If we can transfer that into our 15s game, where sometimes we have a little bit more time, but if we can make those decisions quicker, it's going to have a fantastic effect on you. What you're saying about that in terms of set plays, it doesn't necessarily develop that. But what it does do is, and this is one of the things that we have tried to change since we've come in, is in terms of the quantity and quality of training that our top players are getting, to increase that. Because when we get to national camps, it should be about tactical. It should be, how are we going to break that opponent down? We shouldn't have to think about technical execution. We shouldn't have to think about fitness levels, etc., etc. That's our starting point. We get to that point where actually we have enough training in these players have enough training hours in them that we can load manage, and when we get there, it's pure tactics. This is how we're going to beat that team, because we know we've got the skills and execution to do that. Within sevens, the opportunity there in terms of the amount of touches you have in the ball, the quality of the execution of your skills really counts, because if it doesn't, you get punished. That kind of stuff is invaluable that you can take from the sevens and bring across to the 15s.
So what's next then for the sevens now, Gemma? What's the next plan? What's the progression plan now?
Okay, so the sevens, we've got 3 competitions for the senior sevens this summer. So we want to get back to the World Series qualifier in Hong Kong. However, we have to earn that right, which is right to do. What we have earned is the right to go to Biarritz, which is the final leg of the World Series this year. So we get an opportunity to compete against those teams that are currently on the World Series, which once again is a fantastic opportunity that they can test themselves against what is the best. It's really hard to impart onto a player what it is to be the best through words. It's a lot easier to get that message across if they can experience it and know what it is. And then all of a sudden there is 9 times out of 10 there's this like switch that goes. It's just like this light bulb, which is like, okay, that's what it means to be the best. So that's great for us. We then have the Rugby Europe Grand Prix, which are happening in June and July in France and in Ukraine. And we need to finish outside of the World Series teams that are there, the likes of France, Russia, Spain, Ireland and England. We need to finish the next 3 down. So we have to contend with the likes of Wales, with Poland, with Belgium, teams and countries where actually all they do is sevens to get in one of those spots. And if we do that, then we qualify for Hong Kong next year.
Brilliant. And just from a resource point of view, for pulling players, there must be a number of challenges there, because some of these players are professional, some aren't professional, but getting their time and getting their time with the group of women, how difficult and how challenging is it in that regard? So
the players that we have are contracted. So not all players are contracted players. I think that's a real definition. We don't call them professional players, we call them contracted players. We support them through various levels of contracts, some of them to support their aspirations as both players and people. So the way in which we do that is we host training. So sevens training happens in the evenings and we have camps at the weekends, so that frees up the majority of players. And in between that, they also have their kind of S&C led program. We've got a fantastic lead S&C coach, a guy called Alan McDonald, who came across from British Judo, and he's kind of changed the way in which we think about S&C, which is it's rugby led. So everything we do is about developing a better rugby player, which the players are really buying into. So that kind of support, and then obviously we have some hit-outs arranged with some countries, and then we'll travel away to the tournaments.
If we move back to the 15s game now.
Yep.
It's a big year coming up, especially 2021 with the Women's World Cup, and there's a lot happening around the qualification around that. But you just want to talk us through what is the pathway and what is the plan for the 15s and the World Cup over the next couple of years?
Yeah, so this has been an interesting one for me, trying to nail down what the actual qualification pathway is for 2021, and I think we're almost there with what it is. World Rugby came out with an announcement. Actually, on the Friday we were playing in the final in Hong Kong, and what it will be is a standalone tournament which Rugby Europe will operate, and it'll happen in September of 2020. And then there will be also a second opportunity to qualify through a World Repechage, which will happen between, I'm imagining, October and December 2020. That is TBC. So there will be some sort of tournament, be it round robin, be it home and away, semi-final, final. That is to be agreed by Rugby Europe and communicated to us. But ultimately, the main differences between this World Cup and the previous World Cup are the previous World Cup, Six Nations was used as a qualification vehicle. The two previous Six Nations, so the Six Nations just gone, and then the 2020 Six Nation. And what would have happened is the best team that are not in the World Cup would have qualified out there, and then the fifth place team would have played off against the winner of the Rugby Europe Championship, which tends to be Spain, and you play in a home and away, and the winner of that goes through. And we didn't get through last time, but Spain did. So last year there was a big revision of this through World Rugby, and all the regions agreed that there should be a new qualification process. There was some interesting conversations around that, as you can imagine. Anyway, we got to this point that the Six Nations was not to be used as a qualification vehicle. There would be a new standalone tournament that would happen in September 2020. The plus points for that are that we have essentially another sort of 14 months to develop our team, which is really good, and we need to target winning 3 games in September 2020. That's the qualification path.
2021 will be an exciting time. A World Cup year, Gemma, a lot to look forward to. But before that, there's going to be some autumn tests, I believe, this year again.
Yep.
Just talk us through what the kind of structure for that, and maybe opposition that they'll face.
Yeah, so I think last year was the first time that we had an official autumn test series, which was good for us in terms of we need to have more players having more experience at international level in preparation for Six Nations. This one is slightly different, the focus being that we are trying to prepare the team to peak around about September next year, so we've deliberately tried to put these tests as close to September as possible as we can get it. So for the first time, I was asking Lindsay if you ever toured before, and she was like,
Been a while.
For the first time in a while, we're going to take the team to South Africa, so we're going to play a couple of test matches over there, which will be fantastic experience for them as a bunch of players and as people, but also in terms of a bit of planning. There may be a world ranking element to the Rugby Europe standalone tournament next year. South Africa are ranked 1 place above us, so we're going out there to target 2 victories, which will help us in the world ranking. So that will be maybe potentially a bit of a theme in terms of our opponents in the autumn test series.
Lindsay, you ever faced off against South Africa?
I have actually. I played for the Nomads, which is like a touring team. So we played against South Africa down in London before they went into the last World Cup. So they're big and they're fast, but I definitely think Scotland will give them a good game, and it'll be exciting anyway for the players.
That's a great opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah.
You learn a lot from touring. On and off the field, you build a squad.
It's not just the touring though. I think the autumn tests are really important for the players especially, but also building a bit of momentum for the fans, and getting them prepared for the Six Nations that come up after the autumn tests. It gets people thinking about the game as well. And obviously we were at Scotland this year for our autumn tests, but I think just growing that message and getting that out to as many people as you can, I think is important.
Another element, Gemma, that was launched last year and it's just completed its first season is the Scottish Futures programme. You just talk about what exactly that is for us and people who don't maybe know.
So Scottish Futures is our kind of performance pathway. Its predecessor was, I believe, the PDP. So when we came in, Sarah Monaghan, who's now moved on to pastures new, was charged with establishing a programme which could offer the players within our system, i.e. our clubs and our schools and universities, an opportunity to develop their skills, their rugby knowledge, their fitness, etc. through a programme whose ultimate aim is to provide players for future Scottish teams, hence the name. And these are kind of performance development programmes, and we launched them in August of last year. We went to an open recruitment, we had some talent ID days, We selected across the two age groups, the under 18s and the under 20s, 55 players from across about 19 different clubs, universities and schools, from Caithness, which is, I've just done the North Coast 500, it's very far away, down to Annan, so right across the country. And what these players received is they received, what we focused on was making sure they had quality coaching input, and they did. So they had residential camps, they had day camps, we introduced some skill sessions, and also some competitive training matches towards the end of the year. So the under 18s had 2 games, and the under 20s had 3 opportunities, which also allowed it was really good because it allowed some of our fringe players from the national team to come in and support their development within the under 20s. So, and also some of our injured players. So we had Hannah Smith playing in an under 20 game, which was absolutely fantastic for those under 20 players around her to be able to say that they were playing alongside her and she could speak to them and really bring them out their shells. So proved to be really, really successful programmes for us, and we had some instant success off the bat. We had Rachel Mcglothlin, who was talent transferred across from judo, and I think she started off at West of Scotland, and she came into the under 20 programme identified through that programme, and as we all know, she went on to get her first full cap against she came off the bench against Italy and then got her first full cap against Canada, and then she went on to play a pivotal role in the Six Nations, and she was named Friends of Scottish Rugby Player of the Year for their first inaugural trophy, so a fantastic year for her. But the under 20 programme as well, we've got some exciting players, Meryl Smith, Sarah Denholm, Evie Gallagher, Evie Wills, Katie McLean, all getting invites up to the senior Scottish Women's Sevens training camp. So, and some of them, you never know, might get an opportunity during the Grand Prix season this season. So already starting to see some early fruit coming from those pathways. But first and foremost, it's creating a structure where they can see where the route is. If they want to be a Scottish internationalist, they can see the route and what they get from that pathway. But secondly, not all these players will make it to international level. That's absolutely understood and recognised, and it's almost like these are joint aims for this pathway, because whatever player doesn't make it to international level will undoubtedly go back into our club system and make our clubs better, and then just almost develop the game.
Talking about like going back into the club game, how do you ensure that the clubs are continuing all the good work that's been done with the players while they're in camp or at their training days for the Futures programme? Like, how do we make sure that that's getting followed up at club level? Yeah, so there's been a bit of change at club level. When I came in, Scottish Rugby were halfway through a process of restructuring a season, and ultimately what came out of that is that we wanted to try a new structure, and that is the league will run from August until mid-December this year, so it's a compact league. We restructured it, so we've gone from a Premiership, an At1 and an At2, and some ad hoc regional stuff happening. We've gone to 6 top teams in the Premiership, we've gone to a National 1 with 8 teams, and then we've gone regionalised underneath that. And the main challenge with that is you're trying to create a performance structure and a recreational structure with a limited amount of teams. And there's always going to be some pain at the beginning of it. But we went through a process for that, and we looked not purely at performance, we looked across the board in terms of what the starting point was for our teams. So that'll kick off this season. But going back to, that's just a bit of an overview. Going back to your question, I think the new regional infrastructure that's within rugby development will really help that, because if you look closely at the kind of pillars for development, the key one that stands out there in terms of growth is women's rugby, women's and girls rugby. So there is a real drive to increase the number of girls and women playing rugby. Aligned to that is an increase in the number of coaches, increasing the quality of coaches that are within the women's game, and support to the clubs. So there's a whole host of things that are happening behind the scene, but ultimately the outcome is we want to have the best domestic league structure possible that we can have up here. At this moment in time, players are choosing to go elsewhere, international players to choose to go elsewhere, because they want to play the best level of domestic rugby they can right now. And that currently, if we were to look at the leagues, isn't in Scotland, unfortunately. How do we manage that message though, going out to younger players so that they think, I can still play rugby in Scotland, I don't have to go away to play for Scotland, or that might be how they perceive it. Because we still have international players that are playing here. Every player that's going elsewhere is a choice of that player, and we've been very clear about that.
But at the same time, if I'm a club and I'm upset that my players are choosing to go elsewhere, then I have to understand why that choice is. Are we providing enough? And if not, then who can help? Can Scottish Rugby help us do that? It will take time for the league to develop. There's no hiding from that. You can't just automatically overnight create a league where everybody wants to play and there's competition. Top performance players will always want to go and challenge themselves elsewhere. You've seen Finn Russell has gone to France. He wanted to challenge himself in a different environment. Hoggy's going down to play in the Premiership. He wants to challenge himself in a different environment. That is no different to female players either. They want to challenge themselves in a different environment. We saw the games yesterday, Loughborough Lightning versus Harlequins. You've got Scottish players who are playing with international players from different countries who they're down there playing in the same team as, but are probably learning off as well. Those two things they're not separate, but they're a here and now versus where we want to get in the future. I don't want all Scottish players to have to go elsewhere to access that level of rugby. That's not what I'm about, and it's not what we're about as Scottish Rugby. However, if we want to qualify for World Cups, if we want to be seen as serious contenders on the world stage, players have to be playing and training at the highest levels possible for them at this moment in time. And at this moment in time, some players are choosing that that's not here. Other players are choosing that's here. So you still have players that stay here. So Hannah Smith, Megan Kennedy, Lana Skeldon. There's a number of players that still play the rugby in Scotland.
So I completely agree that players will choose to put themselves into different environments to try and develop their own skills and challenge themselves in different ways. But the other element, and it's in the men's game as well, is finance and the ability to earn money. Now, the girls who are away playing in the different countries, not all of them, but will be being paid for that. There'll be a professional contract element of that. Do you see that coming into Scotland, that we could have some of our club players being paid? And if so, what's the timeline?
So, as far as I'm aware, there's very few of them that are already existing down south receive professional contracts of any shape or form. So I'm not going to go and talk about players this and that, but the understanding of what players receive and the reality of what players received are very, very different. So there's a perception versus reality. There are also players that have remained here that have received 2021 contracts. So it's not about where you play. It's not about you're in Scotland, we're not going to support you. It's around what's our depth chart, what are the players that we need to be fit and available and are required to help us qualify for 2021. Where are you located? What are your plans in life? Okay, what are your plans in rugby? And how do we support you to ensure that we can have you available and fit and ready to perform on the day? That's the approach we take. You're not penalised if you choose to stay in Scotland. We won't not give you things because you choose to stay in Scotland, and I think that's something that needs to be very, very clear.
It's a process that Edinburgh and Glasgow went through years ago. Even when there was, 4 districts and then 3 and then 2 or 3 things. Role modelling becomes really important. So those who choose to stay have to set an example that inspires those around about them. And those who choose to go away, which could be the best thing, and probably is the best thing for that individual, of course, that's what they would do. When they do come back to Scotland time, they have to be really, really inspirational and approachable from not only those within the national camp, but out and about in the domestic stuff as well. And
bring their learnings from playing in other environments to the national camp. So you look at guys like John Barclay and what he'd learned, either personally but also for the team environment.
But before that, in order to give credibility to someone, you need some big important players to commit to it and stay.
Yeah,
certainly the male rugby when it went professional did that. You need some stars or proper stars. I'm knuckling down. I'm staying here. I'm going to make a difference. And then inspiration that then sets for others is it just makes a massive difference. So you need both. It's what's right for the individual, and it's great to hear that the structure and the pathway sees a clear route for those who do want to stay in Scotland and become successful. But if they're successful as individuals and successful as a team, that'll inspire more to stay in for the game to grow.
And you've also got players like Jade Conkle, who was player of the match for Harlequins the weekend, and they're now on to the final, the Premier 15. So you got players who are going to hopefully get a taste of winning as well, which will only benefit when they come back to Scotland camp, surely. You
can win in Scotland as well, though, can't you? You can win anywhere.
In a pro team.
In a pro absolutely, yeah. And Jade's a brilliant example. She's been through our academy and progressed, and through really hard work on our own accord, our own behalf, but also a lot of support and hard work for Scottish Rugby as well. So and there's lots of it is such a growing sport globally, and I think that we're playing catch up at the moment in Scotland, as we did naturally in the men's game as well, but with the quality structures and the quality of coaching and role modelling, the catch up becomes only a small proportion of time, and then you become really, really competitive.
Gemma, it's been really, really interesting to hear from you today, and hopefully there'll be people listening to this, young players listening, and understanding that there is opportunities there, and to see the positivity and the ambition of Scotland in and around the women's game. So thank you very much for coming along. Hope you enjoyed it. It's been great chatting to you, and we'll get you back on soon for a further update.
Thank you.
Gemma Fay there. Great to hear from her, and all the work that's going on behind the scenes around the women's game. Melrose Sevens this weekend. London Scottish were the victors, and then they managed to get Scott Riddell involved in the game as well. But well done to London Scottish winning the Ladies' Cup at Melrose at the weekend, and shout out to the Edinburgh University ladies team as well. They were playing against Durham in the exhibition match, and they got a good one. I think, was Megan playing? Megan Gaffney, your pal?
Yeah, Megan Gaffney, she was back by popular demand, yeah.
So a good result for them. So well done to everybody involved and at Melrose. It looked like a good crowd as well, but well done to everybody involved at Melrose. I think Mossy under-18s were playing at the weekend as well. Yeah,
under 18s narrowly lost actually. They lost by a single point, 18-19 to Italy. Again, the curse of the last play of the game, the last minute score for the Italians. It seems to happen often, and all the different levels that we play. But at this point, there's some good individuals there, some quality bits for Ross Miller, the head coach, to take forward. And their under 16s are in action as well. We've got 3 under 16 teams in action over the next few days and weeks. The Reds, Blues and the Greens, 3 select under 16 teams, and they'll play against Ospreys, Scarlets, Dragons and RGC. So the development talent that Gemma was talking about in the women's game obviously is thriving in the men's game as well, and bringing these young players through.
Did everybody watch the golf yesterday? Did anyone watch
yes,
the Masters?
I did. I had to watch it on my phone because my wife had organised us to be out for dinner at the same time as the Masters was coming to a conclusion. So
so did you sit at dinner on your phone?
Yeah. Well, luckily the person whose dinner we were at dinner as well was keen to watch it, so we were sitting watching it together on the phone.
It seemed to work quite well with the change to the tee-off times due to the storm that was forecast. Had to bring everything forward, didn't it? But were you just a wee bit disappointed we weren't allowed to stay up late to watch it? I used to quite like that as a kid. Stay up late to watch a Masters at
I was looking forward to it, yeah, because
you could never switch it off though, could you?
No, you couldn't go to bed.
Even when you knew somebody had won it,
you'd always watch the last.
You need to see the last ball,
the whole 9.
The last hole.
I know. Yeah. No, but being in the afternoon yesterday, it felt as if it was the Open.
Yeah, Tiger Woods though. Well, I mean, there's a lot of chat around this now being the great sport comeback of all time. Those are big words, but there's no denying that he has come back from a pretty tough time in the past 10 years or so. Hasn't won there for a number of years, but I remember watching Tiger growing up. He was the reason why myself and my brother and a lot of us played golf. But would you agree that it's pretty good, one of the best comebacks?
Oh, it's incredible. Now, if we take the physical element of what he's done in isolation, putting this to the side, the emotional or the psychological element of what's going on with him in the last 10 years, physically he was a broken man. I mean, he wasn't swinging the golf club. He couldn't swing the golf club. But now, to be able to bounce back and play as well as he needed to beat the world best players and look good throughout the whole tournament, clearly as well. The last 2 majors in a row, he's been in the mix. Last 3 majors including this one, he's been in the mix. So he's clearly just about back to his very best. I thought it was brilliant.
For you guys as athletes though, how hard is it when you have a bad injury? I know you guys have had injuries in the past, mentally as well, just to bring yourself back into that kind of elite performance level.
One of the key things, or the most important things through injuries, is support your teammates and those around about you. And I know golf they have a small team with a caddy and coach and different kind of management, whatever, but ultimately it's an individual sport, so it must be even more difficult for you. It's just you really hitting the shot. So a lot of the help you get coming back, even in your rehab, is in and around squad, playing, in the changing room and your physio room. There's a lot going on, there's a lot of chat, there's a lot of kind of things to keep you upbeat. But as a golfer, as an individual sportsman, I think that must be even more difficult. So to do it, in those circumstances, I think it's excellent. There's obviously a massive drive there for him to come back.
Excuse the pun.
Aye, good one. It'll add even more pressure to someone who's already under extreme pressure. But I think it must be harder, no, if you're on your own.
I think it would be harder being in a team sport because you're used to being surrounded all the time.
I bet that you've got a lot of people around, but even when you're injury,
I think Tiger Woods' team will be fairly significant.
But then on the course, like, you could only really.
Your point is that on the course, it's just him.
Yeah, once you make that decision or that kind of moment where you're back on the field, you've still got 14 teammates around about you at any time.
Yeah.
Like when you take you onto the first tee, it's just you. There's nobody. Your managers know your caddies 10 metres away, whatever. It's you, and you have to deliver it. So it must be hard to get over that, I suppose. But
it's a really interesting one. Individual sports versus team sports, and whether it brings the performance out you because you've got people to lean on, or whether because you can concentrate purely on yourself, it brings the best out of you. I don't know is the answer, but one thing I would say that made it harder is the eyes of the world have been on him. Everybody's been watching every single part, every single golf shot that he's hit, going like that. Is he back? Is he not back? How good is he? Will he ever be back? And I wondered when he put that ball in the hole, I wondered whether that would have meant more to him than the first one or any of the ones that had been the highlights over the years because of the battle and the journey that he'd been on.
It'll mean it's harder to get a game of golf for the rest of us now, though. That'll be the popularity through the roof, and I'd imagine, and it's brilliant if one person can inspire people to be active and you saw the crowds
following him round. It was just they're all there for Tiger, and what he's done for golf is undoubtedly huge. What I liked at the end though was that they presented the green jacket to him inside, out with in the cabin, but the CBS TV anchor was really pushing for him, I think, to cry, and he kept going over the fact about here, watch back, you're running up and cuddling your son, and we've also edited it in with you hugging your father as well 12 years before, and he just wasn't for it, but they were really trying.
Then he asked the question and he said, I think many of us, or a lot of us, didn't think you'd ever be here, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting one. That Tiger get my wee nasty look at that stage. But
and you just get the guy who won it last year, I can't remember his name, just Patrick Reed just waiting for him to present the jacket to him.
He didn't even shake his hand, did he?
No, I did see that. It disappeared, but maybe I don't know. I didn't think it was his place.
There.
But he'll go on. Do you think? I do. That he'll go on and win more majors now. I
don't think he can sustain that level, and they talked about that after the game. Well, you guys know, how hard is it to sustain when you win, or you win a tournament or a big game? How hard is it to sustain at that top level?
I think from a golfing point of view, a lot of it comes down to the amount of confidence you get into it with. So we know he's clearly got the game, and when he's in the groove, then he's
nice
a bit
pun.
Nice. He's as good as anybody in the world. So I think that this will give him enormous confidence going into this now, and I can see him going on and challenging Nicklaus's record.
Hopefully, so we don't want to see him go through a rough patch.
Nice pun.
Thank you.
I'm out. I don't have anything to add to that.
That's enough now.
On the phone now we have Scotland Sevens captain Helen Nelson. Linz, I know you've got some questions for us, so fire away.
Hi Nelly. It's been a bit of a whirlwind a couple of months for you. You had the Six Nations and then straight into the Sevens in Hong Kong. How's that all gone for you?
Yeah, it's been good. As you say, a bit of a whirlwind. Six Nations was a tough campaign for us, to be honest. Some good performances, but obviously didn't get that elusive win. But then, going into Hong Kong, it was I think a 2-week turnaround. So we had a bit of training in between Six Nations game and then straight off for the Sevens girls. So it was an incredible trip, to be honest. Hong Kong. Again, pretty disappointing, that final game, that we didn't manage to get the win, but I think we played some really good rugby, so it was good.
What was the emotion after the game? Because watching it was incredible. I generally thought we were going to go on and get that victory, but was the emotion disappointment, or were you pleased with the way the tournament had gone, or did that take a bit of time to sink in?
It was definitely disappointment. I think we 100% thought knew that we could win the game, and just didn't quite execute the game plan, and just too many individual errors, to be honest. So we knew the game was there to win, so we were absolutely gutted.
And now, can you reflect back on it and look at how well? I mean, I look at the Japan game in the group stages and then to come back and win it in the knockout stages. You can see the progress being made just in that game alone. Can you reflect back on it now and see the benefits?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, to win that semi-final against Japan, the odds were definitely stacked against us. So that, as you say, that was an achievement in itself. So we can definitely look back at the tournament. I think looking at how much training time we had together in the weeks leading up, it really wasn't much at all. So it is impressive what we managed to achieve. But as I say, it's still quite raw, that final game.
Did you get to stay out afterwards and have a bit of fun and watch the sevens? Or did you fly back straight away?
No, so we stayed just that Friday night. So we managed to watch the Scotland boys played straight after us. We watched that and then managed to watch Fiji and a couple of teams play. So it got to experience the atmosphere a bit, yeah.
Good.
Was it a good atmosphere in LA? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, no, it was incredible. I think when we were playing in the final, there was probably about 20,000 people, and it was so noisy. It was really cool. I suppose
you look at the 7 series, the calendar. Everybody would probably pick Hong Kong as the biggest one they want to play at. What an occasion for you! But I mean, how cool is it for you now to say that you've played at the Hong Kong Sevens?
Yeah, like a total dream come true. As you say, it's probably the most famous Sevens tournament. And running out in front of that many people, it was a total dream come true.
So talking about dreams, Nelly, you have recently been selected for the Barbarian squad, is that right?
Yes, I have, yeah.
And so do you head off to America next month?
No, it's this month. Next Tuesday I fly, yeah. So fly on Tuesday, meet everyone that afternoon, and then play Friday night, and then back home Saturday. So a total bit of a flying trip, but no, I'm really looking forward to it.
Good. Did it come as a bit of a surprise, or did you know that selection was on the way?
No, total surprise. I got an email asking if I'd be available, and I quickly called round everyone that needed to be called to check that it was okay, and didn't really listen to their answers anyway. I was like, yeah, I'm going
anyway.
Yeah.
Helen, what socks are you going to wear?
I'm still not decided. I'm definitely going to go one Montpellier for my current club, and then undecided on the second one. But yeah.
Sorry, Helen, I'm livid because I mouthed to Al I was going to ask that question.
No, he didn't.
And then he stole it.
No,
so
he didn't.
Good to know. What? Sorry,
just written it down.
What socks did you wear? You?
I wore one Alan Glenn socks because that was a club I'd played for from when I was 6 years old, and a Glasgow sock.
Helen, but you come from looking at your siblings. You come from a real rugby background now.
Told you all this information on the way.
Cheers, Lynn. This is a great question. You come from a real.
So your brother plays.
Your brother and your sister. Just talk us through what inspiration they've been around you as a player.
Yeah, I'd say my brother was probably a big inspiration growing up. He's the one that used to drag me to training from the age of 7 or 8. So, and just in the back garden all the time playing with him. And then my sister just started playing 2 years ago, I think. Plays for Watsonians, and then she won her first cap against Canada in November. So it's been great having her and kind of in the training squad and watching her progress and then eventually get that cap. It's been really cool.
This Barbarian call-up must make you favourite child now, does it not?
Yeah, I'd say so.
You must have some kids also at home.
I hope so.
And whereabouts in the States are you going, Helen?
It's Glendale, Colorado.
All right. Well, listen, Helen, it's been brilliant having you on. Best of luck when the Babas comes around in Glendale. Good chatting with you, and hopefully we'll get you actually in the studio in the near future.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good luck, Helen.
Good luck, Helen.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much for listening. We'll be back next week with more guests on the podcast. Plus, we'll look ahead to Silver Saturday here at BT Murrayfield and that huge match between Glasgow and Edinburgh in the Pro 14.